For those of you who are newer to the network, Knowledge for Freedom is a national network of faculty running similar programs. We all run an intensive summer humanities seminar for low-income high school students, and we support our students in applying to college and engaging as active citizens. I'm Dr. Jessica Lee. I am chair of Knowledge for Freedom, and so my job is to make your jobs easier. I'm also the executive director of Columbia's Knowledge for Freedom program. So I've got, I think, 12 summers of freedom and citizenship of Knowledge for Freedom programs under my belt. So I've seen a lot, and if I can help you in any way, I would like to. Um, some of the ways that can take shape is these faculty touchstones, which are formal presentations of things happening in our network. Our workshops, which are taking place monthly, allow for informal exchanges of questions and ideas. And then I have weekly office hours, which you can sign up for, and I'll be sharing those links in the chat at the end of this session. So that's Knowledge for Freedom. Welcome to our newest members. We're really excited to be spreading this great work. Today, in particular, we're going to be talking about the Teagle Humanities Fellowship and experiences of our students and alumni. Teagle Humanities Fellowship brings our most recent high school seniors into a fellowship in which they work under the guidance of dedicated academic mentors, developing college-level reading and writing skills through the process of crafting an essay in which they explore and deliberate upon contemporary problems in dialogue with transformative texts. So essentially, they get a few books, they get a mentor, they write a college-level essay over the summer, and they get $1,000. So it's been a really great way of extending the Knowledge for Freedom experience into that first semester of college or over that summer, a great bridge program. So you're going to be hearing a lot less from me for the rest of this time. I'm going to turn things over in a second to Dr. Zachary Roberts, who is the director of Teagle Humanities Fellowship and has been since we initiated it in 2020. He's also been a professor in Columbia's KFF seminars and is generally very helpful in the network. We thought to save time rather than speaking out loud all of the bios for today, we would share them as a PDF so you can read and remember who is speaking. So I've just put that in the chat. I'm also putting in the chat the flyer for this year's fellowship, which we will email out to everybody and encourage you to share with your students, your especially graduating seniors. And again, if you're just joining us, please put in the chat your name, your university, and how many graduating seniors you're going to have. With that, I will turn things over to Zach to moderate the panel with our alumni, fellows, and their mentors. Thanks, Zach.
Thanks so much, Jess. Hi, everyone. Thank you all so much for coming here today. Thank you in particular to our THF fellows and to our illustrious THF mentors who I'll be introducing now. As Jess says, yeah, there's a bio PDF that's just been dropped into the chat that has a little bit more information about all of our special guests here today. And also links to their essays, which you can take a look at as well. I can share the link to our Student Voices page on the Knowledge for Freedom website as well, and you can take a look at everyone's past essays. You also may have, depending on where you were in the program, have received a nice sort of physical copy of this printed on paper, this old-fashioned amazing technology that never seems to go out of style, despite our best attempts to do so. So you may have had a little bit of background with this. I'm not going to share too much of that information myself here right now, and am instead going to turn it over to our fellows and mentors so that they can give you their own sort of firsthand accounts of their experiences with the program. So I'll just introduce everyone really briefly. Our first, just go alphabetically here, Lydia Kim participated in Biola University's Read Well, Live Well program in 2022 and participated in THF in 2023. She's currently at UC Santa Barbara studying economics and applied psychology. So thank you very much for joining us, Lydia. Uh, Amram El Hussein participated in Elon University's Freedom Scholars in 2023. She is currently at Alamance Community College, and I believe she said that she's just learned that she's transferring to UNC Charlotte to study English. Is that right? So congratulations. News hot off the presses. That's wonderful news. Yordani Rodriguez participated in Columbia University's Freedom and Citizenship in 2023. And as you can see from his background, he's still there. Uh, he currently attends Columbia College, where he's studying American Studies and planning to minor in education and anthropology. So thank you, Yordani. Our two mentors who have joined us here today, Ahmad Ross was a TA in the Freedom and Citizenship program at Columbia in 2023. Is that right, Ahmad?
It's
2022?
in 2020.
2020. Okay, I'm way off. You graduated in 2023 from Columbia.
That's closer in 2022.
2022. Okay. I don't know anything about Ahmad, clearly. I do know that he's a law student at Yale right now and trying to figure out what that means to him. So thanks very much for joining us, Ahmad. And then Angie Neslin, who is an OG mentor who's been with us in THF from the very beginning, was also a TA in FNC, and I'm going to get this right now, 2015. Okay, got that. Graduated in 2016, uh, has done various things since then, and currently manages the Heart and Hand Family Resource Center in Denver, Colorado. So thank you very much for joining us here today, Angie. Okay, so my first question is for the fellows, so for your Donnie, Lydia, and Amram. Could you talk a little bit about what sort of motivated you to apply to the Teagle Humanities Fellowship this summer after graduating high school? Maybe what was it about your experience that you had in your own KFF program that sort of motivated you to want to continue that experience into the summer? Could you talk a little bit about that? Um, and just pick on,
Well,
sure, you're
like,
Donnie. Thanks.
I'll go ahead. Well, I mean, first of all, I just had a wonderful experience my first summer. Um, you know, just because of the fact that I just love sharing ideas, and the first summer here at Columbia was really a dream because you're discussing, you're building relationships with your peers, you're building relationships with the professors and also your mentors, and that was truly life-changing for me. I gained a lot of mentorship. I grew as a scholar and I grew as a person, and so I simply wanted more. And when I saw that KFF was, or the fellowship was an option, it was really a no-brainer for me because I wanted to partake in that exchange of knowledge further. And that's exactly what the fellowship offered me. And it was a sort of more intimate, more sort of concentrated exchange of knowledge because it was a one-on-one. And I just had a wonderful experience, because of, again, the relationships that I formed. And once again, I grew and I sort of refined myself as both a writer and a reader. And yeah, those things were just very attractive to me. And I don't regret it. I had fun.
Thanks, you're Donnie. Lydia, would you like to respond?
Yeah. So for me, I participated in Biola's program for Read Well Live Well with Dr. Macon, who's actually in this call. And I honestly had one of the best experiences through this program. I actually told Dr. Macon and Dr. Wilson at the end of the program that it really like reignited my passion for reading, and I realized like just the importance of reading and writing and how that fits just in everything that we do. And after finishing like our final paper, like it was like an opportunity for me to apply for this program. And a big reason I actually wanted to do it was my desire to stay in this like I guess like academic realm before I go into college. I think I was really worried like going into college, I had no idea how to approach just that entire process. And I was, I guess, just a little nervous about transitioning into that kind of higher education and like the writing that would come with it. So I was really excited to participate in a program that gave me the opportunity to communicate professionally as well as just work on my writing skills and be able to like again, like Yordani said, like exchange in just um, like sharing ideas.
Thanks, Lydia. Yeah, just to make one little note there, there's a term called summer melt, which is what happens after, specifically after your senior year before you go into college. And the anxiety is real, right? What you just said about trying kind of keeping it going, keeping your mind working at that same level so you can smoothly sort of move into college is a really good way of putting it. Imran.
So, similar to Jordani and Lydia, I also wanted to continue working with KFF. I had a really, really good experience in Elon Freedom Scholars, working with Dr. Lane. She's also in this call. Um, and the final project that we did, I really liked the way I had to like interact with all the information that I was getting, and I just kind of wanted something that that I could keep doing over the summer. Plus, I had nothing else going on, so I was really excited to do that, and I was, of course, still nervous about going into college. I didn't know like what types of things would be required of me, and I guess I wanted something to prepare me for that, and it was definitely the fellowship was definitely a really good way for me to prepare for it. And I mean, reading two books and writing about them sounds like a really great way to spend the summer, and I'm really glad I got to do it.
Thanks, Maran. We're an ideal student if that's exactly what you're describing. That's sort of the person that we're looking for, someone who doesn't necessarily have a sort of rigorous in-person program that they're participating in already. Maybe you have other things going on that summer. The online modality of the mentorship enables you to have some of that experience with another person where you get to read and kind of keep the gears turning as you go into college. This next question is for Ahmad and Angie. What role did, I'll say freedom and citizenship because you were both part of that program at Columbia. What role did that play in your college career, and what made you want to stay involved as a mentor after you graduated?
Sure,
Either
so I
one.
can start.
Ahmad, thanks.
And I'll answer a little bit backward, which is that I wanted to stay involved really for the same reason I wanted to go to Columbia in the first place, which is that I came from a low-income household and neither of my parents went to college. So by the time when I was 15 and I was realizing that I really would like to be someone who knows something about the world, I didn't know where to start. So I got very lucky and encountered a book called How to Read a Book by Mortimer Adler that had this detailed appendix describing what it called the great books. And so here I was, 15, felt like I knew nothing, wanted to learn something. So I just started fiendishly reading through those great books. And I found it really empowering and exciting. And so when I was then in college, the reason why I did freedom and citizenship and stuck around for the Teagle Humanities Fellowship is that I knew how powerful it can be to have someone guide you through these great texts and teach you that you can find something special in them. And so I wanted to be that person for other students. Um, as far as the role it played in my college experience, we had incredible faculty at the Freedom and Citizenship program, and I thought they were so remarkable, both in terms of their teaching ability, but also their commitment to actually being there for students, listening to them, and cultivating excellence in them. And I realized quickly I want to do that. So we'll see what actually happens, but I would love to be a professor, and I didn't really know that until I saw the faculty at work through Freedom and Citizenship.
Thanks so much, Ahmad. It's amazing. Mortimer Adler, like who would find such a book? Angie?
So similarly, a part of the reason that I wanted to go to Columbia was because of the core curriculum and the opportunity to study these like quote unquote great works or foundational texts that really shaped our society that we live in today. So when I learned about the Freedom and Citizenship program as an undergrad, and I was very interested in education myself and thinking about becoming a teacher, it seemed like the perfect opportunity to take those texts that I had really enjoyed studying in my undergrad experience and get to teach a younger generation and students that might not have come into contact with those texts that early on, were it not for the program. And I was very, very lucky. I had the honor of being a TA in Dr. Tweel's class, who's on this call. And I just loved the way that she brought these works, in some cases from thousands of years ago, to life and made them interesting and engaging for students and brought them into the present day. So that really inspired me to stay involved with the program kind of every opportunity I got. And when the Teagle Humanities Fellowship was created in the summer of 2020, I was participating in actually like a reading group with other Freedom and Citizenship Program alumni. And that kind of helped me get involved with the Teagle Humanities Fellowship and being a mentor with that. And ultimately, I have not made my career as a formal educator, because many of the texts that we've read pushed me to want to do other kinds of work in my community. But being involved with this program, being a mentor for the fellowship, kind of allows me to have the best of both worlds, and get to continue with being an informal educator and mentoring these incredible young minds like Maram and Lydia. So very grateful to be here still.
Thanks so much, Angie. Yeah, something, and maybe in the Q&A we can talk about this as well at the end about trying to think of other ways that we can sate this appetite that seems to be out there for people to have these kinds of intellectual relationships. There seems to be a lot of desire that's sort of unfulfilled about creating book clubs, about having these kinds of experiences that we had in college and that once we leave seem to sort of leave us behind. It's a really unfortunate situation. It may have something to do with the state of the country, but we won't go there. My next question is for everyone, and I thought I would sort of organize this a little bit because actually our two mentors here, Angie and Ahmad, Angie's two mentees are Lydia and Maram, and then Ahmad's mentee was Yordani. So I'll maybe ask this as sort of maybe Lydia, Angie, and Maram can sort of begin. And then Ahmad and Yordani, you can answer the question also in turn. What's one moment that you had during the summer where you were reading and discussing together that stuck with you or that changed the way you think? It's kind of an open-ended question, but anything that stuck with you, the first thing that sort of comes to mind, um, what, how would you answer that? Maybe Lydia, maybe you could get us started.
Yeah, I would say the most memorable moment was actually choosing the second text I was going to use for my essay. So like for the Read Well Live Well program, we're actually like already kind of like given text and then we like wrestle with that, we read about it and we get to discuss it as a group. But for the Teagle Humanities Fellowship, um, we get to choose like out of a list for I believe the first source and then the second source, like we get to bring that in. So I was just very it just felt like daunting to me because I didn't know like what kind of book I was supposed to bring in. So I was kind of stuck between a book by Michelle Zauner, Crying in H Mart, which was very popular at that time, and then also The Making of Asian America by Erica Lee, which was a lot more historical and factual. And I remember asking my mentor, Angie, for help, and she told me to make a decision based on just what I was drawn to and how that related to my work. And after choosing The Making of Asian America, um, like what actually really stuck to me was what Angie said to me nearing the end of our time together. She actually told me that she was grateful that she was able to read that book because she was able to learn a lot of history and just a lot of things that she didn't really know before. And the reason it stuck to me is that like it helped me realize that even though like she was my mentor and like she had graduated college and she had all this experience, like she was still learning And it was also through something that I was learning as well. So like even though she was my mentor, we both got to take away something from it. And it just like helps me see things in a different light. I would say that like the like learning process isn't like stagnant or it isn't like linear. I would say like there's like no way to really describe it. And like even though like I'll graduate college and maybe I won't be a student anymore, like I'll always be learning and like this fellowship was just like a really good like experience to learn that.
Great, Maram.
So, before we started reading the books, after I had ordered my first one, Song of Solomon, me and Andrew were talking about how we wanted to approach reading the book. And she asked me if I was a big annotator. I'm not. I really like keeping my books really pristine and stuff. But she definitely pushed me to, try and keep track of what I'm reading in some way. So I did a Google Doc. I wrote down page numbers and I wrote down things I was thinking and stuff like that. And when it came time to write, it was super, super helpful. I was able to go back and I remembered where everything was. I was able to think about what I needed to find for my writing and be able to actually find it rather than like flipping through the book wondering what that one sentence was that I just can't find. But yeah, and now I still don't write in books. I hate doing that. But now when I'm doing my college writing and things like that, I do try and keep notes, write on printed sheets of the passages, things like that, just to, try and keep my thoughts organized and keep things organized. And it's definitely been very helpful. So I appreciated that.
Thanks, Maram. Yeah, those little technologies about reading and writing that we sort of take for granted are so important, actually. And sometimes it takes somebody else to make us try them before we get out of our ways that we're prematurely stuck in. Angie?
I loved both Miram and Lydia's examples. And so Lydia kind of covered maybe what my main one of the main things I learned during my summer working with her, which was I got the opportunity to learn all of this history about Asian America that I just hadn't really come up in my education till then. And Lydia was also very generous in sharing her own experiences growing up in a Korean American family. And I really, really value that because the work that I do on a day-to-day basis involves me interacting with people from all over the world. And so that really kind of opened my eyes and enriched my knowledge of a pretty big piece of history that often gets left out of American classrooms and unfairly, as Lydia argued. And then working with Miram this past summer, the first book that we read was Song of Solomon. And we were both really big Toni Morrison fans. It was our first time reading the book for both of us. And there was a character that we both really liked at the beginning, for anyone that's read the book, Guitar. And then as it went on and we were discussing, and we kind of both were like, we're disappointed in Guitar. Why is he acting this way? And Miram had some really interesting insights about the ways that this character wasn't, he was kind of stuck in his identity and he wasn't letting himself grow. And so he kind of hardened into the cruelest parts of his identity. And I thought that was a really interesting insight that she pulled out of the book and ultimately spun into an essay. And yeah, I could give probably a million more examples. I've worked with like, I think 18 students now in this program, and every single one has taught me something, has expanded my knowledge, and I'm very grateful for that.
Thanks, Angie. That's such a good, A, a really good reading of Song of Solomon, and B, such a testament to how this is sort of mutually transformative, I think. It's always a cliche to say that you learn as much from your students as you teach them or something. But in this case, I think that there's a lot of truth to that this is really meant to be sort of non-specialists working with other non-specialists, right? This is not a sort of let me educate you, let me download what I know about this. It's let's discover together what these texts mean to us right now. And there's many different ways of answering that question. Yordani, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, just like every conversation with Ahmad was incredibly sort of intellectually stimulating. He always had those amazing questions. It truly felt like being questioned by a Yale lawyer. So I never felt that I was prepared, but it was a sort of a beautiful working environment where, he listened carefully and deeply to everything I said and came up with questions that, I mean, I couldn't possibly be ready for, but I always tried my best to answer them. And if I could just go beyond that, one of the things that really marked me from our working relationship was an assignment, a little short assignment that he gave me, and it was to generate an interpretive question and grapple with that question in a short writing exercise. And that has really stuck with me, and it has fundamentally changed how I read and really how I see sort of other people's writing and how I see my writing. And sort of the way that he presented interpretive questions to me is that they sort of seek to identify ambiguities within the text and then for you to be able to make sense of them. And I have continually sort of thought about it throughout, my time in college. And the way I now think about it is, what lies beyond the literary bounds of the text, right? What is there beyond this line? It's, reading between the lines. And so sort of this approach of reading um allowed me to like come up with great questions, great essay topics. And it has allowed me to sort of become a better reader. I mean, I'm taking literature humanities here at Columbia, which is basically we read a book a week, and I'm doing this twice a week for 2 hours. And I literally do this every day, and I feel like the program quite literally trained me to be sort of effective in this class. And it kind of really correlated to I think one of the best sort of compliments that I've gotten from my literature humanities professor is that she felt as though I was her ally in the class because I asked questions, not questions that you sort of can find in Google, but questions that were interpreted, that had different sort of ways for you to answer them. And you can just see that when I ask a question in class, my sort of classmates sort of jump on them. And that really drives the conversation forward. So it has made me a better scholar and has made me better at conversations. And not only inserting myself in conversation, but also pushing it forward in a way that is meaningful, um, and in a way that generates knowledge beyond, like I said, the bounds of the literary text that we're reading every single day. So that was definitely something that marked me forever.
Great, thanks. Ahmad?
That makes me so incredibly happy. I love to hear that. So as you can all tell, Yordani is incredibly brilliant. And I think that the pivotal moment in our summer for me was that we started reading Plato's Republic without really any order or direction we were moving in. And so we just, sort of paid attention to what stuck out to us when and discussed it reflectively. So there was a particular day when one specific passage stuck out to Yordani, and his reading of it I thought was so insightful and brilliant that we basically abandoned whatever sense of what we were doing we had until then, and we decided to just dive into it. So we selected a second text based on what we thought could help us unfurl Yordani's insight about this passage. And it was a text unfamiliar to me and also known to be very difficult and sort of obscure. But I knew that Yordani was ready for it because he was a brilliant reader. So we dove into it and read it carefully together. And that's what sort of led Yordani to write this brilliant, really complicated syncretic piece talking about democracy and a transition to a digital age that I think is brilliant. But the most intellectually rewarding part of it for me was seeing the way in which reading it with Yordani inflected my understanding of this text I was otherwise unfamiliar with. And it's really impacted the way that I think about the text and was maybe one of the highlights of my intellectual experience of the last couple of years.
That's great. Thanks, Ahmad. That's a good segue actually to my next question for the fellows, which is to talk a little bit more about writing and the process, or maybe even lack thereof. That's something we can discuss. This is, as you've gathered, tends to be a very open-ended kind of program, and the direction that you end up going into is whatever the relationship that you have with the text, with your mentor, dictates. So you're really following your train of thought in this organic kind of way. This is very different from the kind of writing that you are generally asked to do in high school. and in some ways from the kind of writing that you're asked to do in colleges, although I think that's unfortunate. But I wondered if you could talk more about what that transition was like for you. How did this differ from your experience writing in high school? And then what specific skills or practices did you learn over the summer that you have employed in college that you found useful or helpful for you? Maybe Maram, could you get us started?
Yeah, so in high school, I feel like there was a huge difference when it came to writing. When you're given assignments in high school, everything is kind of just like very clear cut. They tell you exactly what they want, they tell you what to read, they tell you what basically what they're expecting from you. And the program over the summer, it definitely gave me way, way more freedom. I just kind of, with the first book I read, Song of Solomon, I was just kind of, I just took the time to enjoy it, similar to what Yordani and Ahmad were doing, just, figuring out what was sticking out to me and then deciding based on that. Um, it was really freeing, just writing, kind of just about whatever I was thinking, whatever my thoughts led to, rather than just kind of focusing on a prompt, what the prompt is, focusing on what they're expecting of me. And yeah, I feel like gave a lot of room to be creative. I was looking at some of the other essays when they came out, and one of the ones I really liked was Socrates at Hardy's, the Platonic dialogue. It was an essay. It was completely dialogue, like all of it, just an idea of Socrates being at Hardy's and speaking to I think it was other employees. And yeah, I just feel like there was a lot of room for people to really experiment and really try so many different things that you really wouldn't have the chance to do in high school.
That was my mentee, actually. We did that together. It was a huge amount of fun doing this. He was, in fact, working at a Hardee's and reading Plato's Republic, and we just said, why don't we do it like Socrates would want us to? It was really fun. Lydia?
Yeah, I would agree with Mom. I think high school writing is definitely very different from what we did with Teagle Humanities Fellowship and also just college level writing as well. Um, I think for me, I was very used to like structured writing, especially in like um an academic sense. A lot of it is like, especially in like AP Lang or AP Lit, like they give you like how to write these essays, what to write, how long they should be, and like how many sources to include. And I think when I first approached this essay, that's kind of what I was doing. And Angie definitely helped me through that to realize that this was like my essay and I could say what I wanted, but at the same time, I had to write why that really mattered. And I think like just wrestling with that was really helpful in just expanding like my knowledge and also just like my experience in writing. And in college, I would say I definitely apply what I've learned through this process a lot. I learned a lot in this writing process of like definitely finding a lot of different perspectives and also like relying on experiences, opportunities, and like even like data, I would say, which kind of I guess correlates to my major into the writings that I do. And honestly, I think like the biggest difference is that after this program, I really just wanted to continue writing and I wanted to like continue getting better. So even now when I look back at this essay, I see a lot of like places where like I wish I had written something else or I would have edited out, but I think that really just proves that this was just a really good learning experience for me.
I mean, that sort of both of you said there, I think, is that writing is best and is in fact only truly writing when it's something that you really want to do, when your own sense of what matters is at stake. In high school, the kind of writing that you're doing is you're trying to write the correct essay. There's like a Platonic sort of correct essay or something. And such a thing does not exist. The right essay is the essay that you want to write. And it takes a long time to come to that understanding. It's a difficult one. Yordani?
Um, I mean, yeah, I definitely concur with the fact that like in high school, you sort of have this formula, the five paragraph essay, And I mean, let's be honest, we all sort of grew tired of that formulaic 5 paragraph essay. And that's why I think a lot of people perhaps don't like writing in high school. And I think there's definitely room for us to reimagine what pedagogy looks like when it comes to writing in high school. And thankfully, we have programs like this to fill in the gaps of those pedagogic failures that our education system is sort of perpetuating. And but I digress. But I think that again, the freedom to write whatever you want. And I think that the freedom when it came to the structure of the essay was sort of the most liberating, because now, when I was writing the essay, I could play around with the structure and make the structure sort of mirror my style, my voice as a writer. And that's not something you can do in a 5 paragraph essay within a formula. And again, Ahmad sort of introduced me to a sort of framework and a writing process developed by Betty Sue Flowers that also I quite literally think about it every single time I sort of write anything really. And there's 4 steps. There's the madman, which is, you writing in your creative spirits, you're generating ideas, you're going crazy. And then you have to turn into an architect. And that's when you have to turn yourself into the planner who ensures, the structure, that your ideas are flowing, how you want them to flow. And then you have to turn into the carpenter, right? Now you're building on those ideas, you're building on the structure, and you're building on those creative aspect that you were sort of that you started with. And then you turn into a judge, right? You have to judge, you have to check. I mean, for something very basic like grammar, you have to check for clarity, cohesion, style. And so I think I have approached every single essay, and definitely that essay, through those lenses. And something important that that writing process sort of demands is that neither of those 4 steps sort of takes the lead. There needs to be a balance, there needs to be a restraint. And so I think that I always keep that in mind. Like, I almost never outline my essays. I, literally write the whole entire essay um, like on one go, and then I restructure it. And that's just the type of writer that I am. But this sort of thinking through my writing through this process allowed me to sort of identify where I am in the process and what I still need to do. And so it's also a diagnostic tool. I I feel like well, yeah, it was sort of a great way to one approach my writing during the summer, and something I continue to think about as I write the essays that I do now.
That's great. Thanks, Jordani. Yeah, so again, sort of moving beyond the formula into this realm of freedom. Freedom is sort of scary initially, right? I think some people mistake the freedom to write about whatever you want as staying in that sort of madman stage that you're describing, right? But you come up with your own methods for doing it, right? But it's a challenge to be free. Um, since we're talking about pedagogy, we have sort of digressed into that. Maybe actually something that we can speak about, and this can sort of serve as a transition into a Q&A as well. But what kinds of opportunities could we come up with to build on the work that we do, both in this summer program and in THF, but also in other Knowledge for Freedom programs more broadly? What else could we do for people who have gone through those programs, such as you? What opportunities could we offer? What kinds of relationships could we help to build? Um, I'll just sort of open it up to any of you who would like to respond.
Um,
Marwan?
yeah, so after I completed the KFF writing program, I was sorry, excuse me. Um, they asked me if I was interested in having a mentor for my first year of undergrad, and I did say yes, and he's been really, really helpful. We're still in contact. He's been, working through all types of different scholarship applications and just like classwork, or even life advice. I think maybe a good way to, I guess, branch out. I know that I personally would also like to become a mentor, one day eventually if that's an option. And I feel like this could be a good way to make that happen, I guess. But yeah, I just feel like um being able to help people and what you guys are doing now has really been really, really amazing, really substantial for me. And knowing that there's a possibility I could do that for someone else would be really great.
Finding ways for the mentees to become the mentors would be something we could work on. Ahmad?
I was very much going to share that same sentiment. It occurred to me when Lydia and Angie were talking about how the mentorship role is also a very fulfilling intellectual experience that teaches you new things. I think there is use to inverting that role and having some opportunity for mentees to act as mentors and also for mentors to act as mentees, because I think you learn slightly differently through both lenses.
Great, thanks. Anyone else, Lydia or Angie or Yordani?
I mean, I think that's a really great idea, what Miram and Ahmad were just talking about. And I had mentioned earlier that we had done this just like a reading group, really. I think Dr. Lee coordinated it during the first pandemic summer. Not that I want to go back to those circumstances, but it was really fun. It was kind of like a book club, and low stakes, but there was, I think, pretty good participation. And it was a cool way to bring together people from different parts of the country or even of the world. So maybe there's an opportunity to start a program like that as well with people that have been through a KFF course or program or the Teagle Humanities Fellowship or any other programs that are developed in the same kind of spirit.
Angie? Not
Yeah,
Yordani,
I was also thinking along those lines, like not not quite a book club, but it's just a gathering space where even if it's through Zoom to make it more accessible, and more sort of expansive. To sort of discuss ideas and texts that allow us to grapple and sort of work through everything that's happening. I think that there's an incredible need for conversation. It's a skill that we need right now, um, quite literally to survive. And so I think that if we are able to foster a space where we are thinking of those ideas, and I think that the mentors and the people that participate in the KFF programs are fundamentally the people that will go out into their communities and sort of spread that thinking and those ideas. So I'm sure it will be more than just us meeting and talking about this. It will definitely spread the way we think about the world and the way we partake in conversation.
conversation is a need to survive. That feels very immediate. Maybe that's a good segue actually to our Q&A section here. Jess, do you want to sort of open it up here for us?
Thank you so much to our panelists and to Zach. Zach, not only for coordinating this panel, but also for making Teagle Humanities Fellowship happen every year for 5 summers. Here we already have a question in the chat from Seneca, who'd love to hear about how you forged new friendships and built relationships with mentors. Do you think your KFF experiences have shaped your relationships and friends with people outside of the program? Yordani, I know you were mentioning something about relationships earlier. Do you want to comment on that?
I mean, sure. I mean, I'm like I mean, I love Devin and he's like my mentor forever, personally and academically. And just like a month ago, I was applying for a fellowship, the Laidlaw Fellowship, because I wanted to do research. And I reached out to some of my mentors, that they were RTAs and TAs, and I pitched them my research proposal. And one of them I ran into him into the library and I discussed it with him, and he was so incredibly helpful. It was Janice, and I just feel so supported in this campus by the FNC community that I just love it. And I get coffees with them, I have lunch with them all the time, and we just talk about ideas. We talk about my future, and I've become also quite invested in their future. I ask them about their thesis, about what they're doing after college, because it's become way more than them mentoring me. It's become a friendship that is quite beautiful, and they have absolutely allowed me to sort of grow on campus, make my way here, because as a first generation college student, first generation high school as well, it can be intimidating to come into a campus like this, into a community. And so it has definitely changed the way I carry myself and sort of the way that I feel supported, which is so important in these times as well. So absolutely.
Something I've heard a lot are students who have different relationships with their family members. I mean, in FNC, they go home on the weekend and suddenly like you're having conversations with your parents that you never had before. Maram or Lydia, have you experienced something like that with either a close friend or a family member?
Actually, after my essay was published, my opening did talk a bit about myself and my relationship with my family, that in specifically how they viewed our culture, saying that I'm not American, I'm Sudanese and things like that. And my friend, my best friend of so many years, she read it immediately, and she's also Sudanese. She resonated with my work, and she shared it with her mom, and she was able to have that conversation with her mother, and actually get her to understand what we mean when we say things like we can be both, and we have a connection to the society that we grew up in, alongside our own cultures, and I think that it's definitely been helpful, because I'm friends with her, but our parents are also friends, and I think that close relationship has been able to kind of get them to have more conversations about the way that they respond to us and the way we act in our society.
It's a beautiful story. Mark, to your question about how someone becomes a mentor, right now we're looking for mentors who have taught in a KFF program. So that's former TAs or mentors, depending on what your program calls them. And when we get bigger, maybe we can have our alumni THF students, fellows participate. But if you have somebody, I think reach out to Zach would be the best thing. If you have somebody in mind who would be a great fit for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Someone who you think would be a really good fit, someone who you think, I mean, as you can see here, has these kinds of values, that feels comfortable with intellectual uncertainty, with reading closely and asking questions. And we tend to gravitate towards people who have sort of kept education as a part of their lives, maybe in their career. Maybe we have others are sort of graduate students, and but that's not exclusively the case. So yeah, be in touch if you have any recommendations. Any other questions for any of us?
Mark, is
Mark?
that a hint?
Can I just unmute? Is that okay? Instead of
Yeah.
typing it. So this was to pick up on Jordani's kind of comment about like continuing these conversations. I'm wondering if Teagle has ever thought about something like, I'm probably familiar with the Catherine Project at St. John's, but like something like that for like KFF alumni to kind of have these conversations kind of on Zoom or something like that. Considering that they may not have those opportunities, depending on what sort of institution they're going to for their undergraduate, they may not have opportunities to have those kinds of conversations. So as Teagle kind of consider that kind of into the college experience.
I guess I can take that one. Hi, everyone. This was such an incredibly inspiring call. I'm just like basking in the joy of listening to you speak. Um, I think that we haven't considered making a grant in that exact direction, but I think we're very interested in sort of following alumni leadership on this. So if there are alumni that are really interested in creating a program where they're reading with fellow alumni online or in person or however they can conceive it, talk to Jessica and Zach. And I think we would be really interested in ensuring that you can continue reading in these kinds of like deep environments.
Jessica, if I could just say a quick word. First, mainly, I want to say thanks so very much to all of you. As Tamara just said, this has been a heartwarming and mind-opening discussion of the sort that we can all use these days, and really grateful to all of you. And thank you for that question, Mark. As Tamara said, we don't have a particular game plan on this as of now, but I think it's fair to say that the whole point here is to try to find ways to deepen the relationship among KFF alums. We're not only within the specific program from which they have graduated, but even nationwide as the network expands. So we're thinking about how to do that. We have some incipient ideas, and the notion of alums getting together periodically to talk about reading makes all the sense in the world. The whole idea here is to encourage people to do this not just for one summer, but for the rest of their lives, and to, as Giordani said, to go out into the community and spread the reading gospel and the discussion gospel. So that's a kind of mealy-mouthed, unspecific, unsatisfying answer, but it's my way of saying thanks for the question and the discussion.
I can say a word on that too. Yes, any ideas that you ever have, I'm always very happy to hear them uh, at any time, really. Any suggestions, anything that you think we could do. I think this is very much a work in progress that we're continually sort of reimagining and trying to think. As I sort of suggested, this began in the summer of 2020, that awful pandemic summer when everyone was sort of forced to be online. We kind of thought, well, let's try to take advantage of that fact. And it turns out there are certain advantages. All of us are coming in very easily from all across the country right now. Is it as great as it could be if we were all in the same physical room together? Certainly not, but it is certainly much, much easier. It enables and facilitates these kinds of transnational relationships with people that you might not otherwise get to talk to. So I think we're really thinking a lot about ways that we can use these kinds of resources or in-person resources locally, where different members of a consortium may be in an area, maybe like the greater New York City area. That's sort of a network there. Maybe the West Coast and Los Angeles, that could be a sort of area, maybe. So those are things that we're absolutely thinking about. Yeah.
Well, I think this is a great place to wrap up.